Hey dog, Angie and I are here on the east coast of the US in the Atlantic Ocean, and we're going to talk to you about ocean resources. Mhm. So, I'm back here in Johns Creek, and after completing this research project, what really amazed me was not many people know how big of a role the ocean plays on our daily lives. By the size of it, I thought it should be clear to anyone how significant and essential it is. The ocean covers 71% of Earth's surface, and it contains 97.5% of its water. We are so dependent on this natural resource for regulating climate, providing food, drilling for oil and gas, and for providing us with a multitude of commercially important resources, including sand, gravel, diamonds, manganese, copper, nickel, iron, and cobalt. Specifically, the ENSO cycle, or the El Nino Southern Oscillation Cycle, affects global temperatures by creating upwellings or downwellings in the tropical Pacific Ocean. This scientific term clearly explains the fluctuations in temperatures between the ocean and atmosphere approximately between the international dateline and 120 degrees west. For example, the ENSO cycle is comprised of two natural phenomena, El Nino and La Nina. El Nino, on the other hand, is characterized with warmer waters, spikes in rain and flooding, increased humidity, and thunderstorms in the southern United States, while La Nina is characterized with cooler waters, decreased precipitation and humidity, noticeably cold weather in the Alaska region, and higher than normal number of hurricanes in the Atlantic. Other than regulating global temperature and precipitation, another important resource the ocean provides us with includes oil and gas. Throughout the Earth's history, natural gas and mineral oil have formed from the remains of marine algae and land plants. Today, with the use of modern drilling techniques and giant platforms, these resources are being extracted at greater depths. Production systems are now being installed on the sea floor. However, although this means more resources and energy for us, this also means pollution, specifically air pollution. I meant oil pollution. Oil pollution in the ocean continues to pose a threat to the marine environment. Although many might think oil spills contribute the most, the greatest problem, in fact, occurs from effluents or during shipping. Various conventions to protect the marine environment, better surveillance of seaways, and contingency plans all play a part in reducing the volume of oil entering the sea. In 1990, actually, to combat oil contamination in the ocean, the U.S. enacted the U.S. Oil Pollution Act. This law not only created a $1 billion prevention and cleanup fund, but it also required that by 2015, all oil tankers in the U.S. waters must be equipped with double hulls. These double hulls would act as a barrier against any possible puncture to further prevent oil pollution. This is necessary and important to protect our oceans since we rely on them for various resources. Sand and gravel currently are the most mined materials in the marine environment. They are heavily used in construction, specifically in the production of concrete. Seabed mining for other minerals is also emerging due to the increasing need for rare earth elements. If this continues, it's important that we properly manage and regulate ocean mining. Lastly, Angie, who currently is on a deep sea exploration, will tell you about the case study of the collapse of the cod fisheries. So I'm going to pass the camera over to her.
Hey Ron, thanks for passing the camera off because I want to talk to you about a case study about the collapse of cod fisheries in Canada. So what it was, the central case study was that the collapse of the Canadian Newfoundland cod fishery happened in 1992. The collapse took place in Newfoundland Great Banks in Canada. And at the end of it, it put over 40,000 people out of work. So the area was once known as the world's most productive fishing grounds, but after years of overfishing and incompetent fishery management, all the resources and all the fish disappeared. So overfishing began in the 1950s when people on boats realized how much cod they were surrounded by. Most of the overfishing took place in the late 1950s and early 1960s, and it significantly changed and damaged the ocean. The northern cod were so plentiful that up until the late 50s, over 250,000 tons were caught on an annual basis. At one point, up to 800,000 tons of cod were being overfished in the Atlantic Ocean. So this was significantly larger. The Canadian government took notice and then eventually had to put a stop to any commercial cod fishing. So this was obviously the tragedy of as humans, our selfish actions, and almost wiped out a whole cod population. Thankfully, because overfishing is now managed, the area is no longer an environmental threat. Okay, so there's a lot to know about ocean resources, and here are 16 questions to help review about ocean resources. So, number 1, what are some examples of how humans use living ocean resources? Well, we use ocean resources in our food, our medicine, and household products. A fun fact is that household products like shampoo and paint and polish are made from resources that come from the ocean. Question number 2. What are 3 examples of non-living ocean resources that we humans use? 3 examples. 1 would be water, fuel, and minerals. Those are 3 resources that we use that are non-living. Question number 3. Where are nearly all fish caught? Nearly all fish are caught in waters or areas of upwelling. So mostly coastal areas and coastal waters. Question number 4 is a key term. So what does aquaculture mean? Aquaculture is simply just the farming of saltwater as well as freshwater organisms. Question number 5. What are some non-living resources that come from the ocean floor? So on the ocean floor, there are gravel, sand, gold, diamonds, and metals. Metals can also be found on the ocean floor. An example of one could be manganese, which is a type of metal. So if you didn't know, magnesium can be obtained from seawater, and question number 6 is, how is it obtained from seawater? So when the fresh water is removed, ocean water has mineral-rich salts, and those are left behind, and that contributes to how magnesium is obtained. Question number 7 is a fill in the blank. So most of the population in the ocean is caused by humans. Humans cause most of the pollution in the ocean. So question number 8 is another key term, and it is, what is a nodule? So a nodule is actually when metals clump around a piece of shell on the ocean floor, and they form black lumps. That is what a nodule is. It's usually found on the ocean floor. Question number 9. So, does the ocean supply of fish increase or decreasing due to overfishing? Overfishing causes the ocean supply of fish to decrease. The answer to number 9 is decrease. Question number 10 is another just fact, but approximately half of the ocean's surface waters are owned by no one. No one. Okay. Question number 11. Why are the richest deposits of oil and natural gas often located on the continental shelf? So, most of the richest deposits of oil and natural gas are found on the continental shelf because that is where most of the organisms on the ocean live. And that's where they live, die, and then later become buried in the sediment, which turns into oil and natural gas over time. So, question number 12. Oil spills can be cleaned up, naturally occurring blank that feed on the soil. Oil spills can actually be cleaned up by bacteria, and that is what feeds on the oil. Question number 13. What is one of the natural causes of pollution in the ocean is weather. Another one could be organisms' waste and their bodies after they die, but one of the natural causes could honestly just be weather. Okay, so we're getting closer to the end. So, question number 14. How can a sudden surge of fresh water from an estuary pollute the ocean? So, an estuary, so the sudden change in salinity may kill ocean animals that are unable to adjust to it. So, when ocean water mixes with fresh water and the fish aren't used to living in both, that can kill ocean animals because they're changing habitat. Question number 15. The ocean is called what? Because it can absorb some waste without permanent damage. It is called a self-cleaning system because it can absorb waste without permanent damage and come back to its norm. The final question is, what is algae? And algae is actually a living resource, and it's often found in products that we use every day, such as in shampoo, cosmetics, and it's even found in ice cream as a thickener.